the CrimeCasters Network with Alicia Sophias and Ronnie Dahl. Two rogue reporters breaking newsroom rules to take you behind the crime scene tape.
Okay, CrimeCasters, grab a drink. It's the time of the program where we take you behind the scenes with us and have the real conversations. Ronnie, I don't think we can have the same exact conversations we have on the phone each night, but man, we've been talking about this case for years, and I can't wait to get into it. DeAndre seems very nice.
I do like him.
Yes.
I've interviewed DeAndre Lane several times, and I do like him.
I feel myself like puffing up, getting ready to go off, but I'm going to just take a break.
So real quick, for those, just a quick recap.
Yes.
Let's start there. So it's
Okay.
December 2nd, about 9 o'clock in the morning. DeAndre is on the way to take his daughter back to her mother's house to get additional items for her because she's staying with him for the first time, and it was just supposed to be for the birthday weekend, and it's getting extended until Christmas. And so he needs more things. Now, on his way there, DeAndre claims that he was the victim of a carjacking. There's a lot of dispute around his story, which we will be getting into. Mm-hmm. However, they did find the car about 30 minutes later, about a half mile away. It was still running.
Yeah.
The keys are in the ignition. The door is open. The car seat is in the back.
No baby.
Baby Bianca is nowhere around. And to this day, she has yet to be found.
Okay. There is a window here. Should we start with the window? Because there's a time frame that something had to have happened to her. I have a lot of problems with this story, okay? One of my big problems is you're so close to Bonica's house. Are you really pulling over and checking your taillights? Is it that important? Because to me, that's one big red flag.
And that is a hard part for so many people to get over. And in fact, I just got an email from DeAndre a couple days ago because I asked him about that again. You were so close. Why wouldn't you just wait until you got to the house? And for him, he says, because he had been in an accident before and because he had Bianca with him, he was pulling over to stop and do a quick check. It's not a really bad part of Detroit. It's not the best part, but it's not a really bad part of town either.
Okay, and to be clear, you and I probably wouldn't pull over in downtown Detroit if someone was flagging us down, telling us we had a tail light out. You'd probably be like, thanks, wave it off, and you're just kind of taught not to stop in downtown Detroit or any area as a single woman, right?
Downtown, you're probably okay. It's in the neighborhoods. So, and this kind of works two ways. For people we all know, at one point in time, Detroit had the nickname Carjack City.
Right. You have stats on that.
More cars are stolen in the city of Detroit in a year than the rest of the state of Michigan.
So I can take this one or two ways. Either A, that's low-hanging fruit. Like, I got carjacked, and everyone's like, yeah, of course you did. You pulled over in Detroit. So that is an easy story for him. On the other hand, to someone maybe out in a very safe area somewhere watching this right now, you may say, oh, carjacked, yeah, that doesn't happen. It happens in Detroit. Happens.
In fact, at one point in time, the former chief of police, James Craig, was almost the victim of a carjacking. We've had very high-profile people become victims of carjackings in the city. So it's not uncommon in the city of Detroit. And that is one of the questions for the detectives too, though. When you say it raised a red flag, it did with detectives as well, saying, hey, everyone's carjacked in Detroit. Why would you pull over?
Listen, Ronnie, you are one of the most intelligent people that I know, right? And you're the most real person that I know. You tell it like it is. And for some reason, I know you started covering this case from the right at the beginning. And I don't know how this has happened, but you and I are so on polar opposite sides of this case, because when I hear DeAndre speaking and I hear his story, I don't buy it, but you do. What happened to baby Bianca? What happened to her then?
That's what everyone wants to know. So here's another part of this story that doesn't add up to me. You're telling me that in a home where you have 2 other kids in the bedroom with her, you have a teenage nephew, DeAndre, his fiance, you're telling me that he beat her, she died, and then he pretended like she was alive?
Yes.
No one else noticed.
Yes, I 100% believe that, because you're not expecting a little girl to be dead. First of all, they're new to her. They don't know her a lot, okay? They don't know her behaviors. But I can tell you, a 2-year-old is not going to sleep through the whole morning. And here's what I believe happened. I believe he did. I believe she wet the bed and had a problem, and he went off and he paddled her, and then it went too far. And he was like, oh my God, like, she's dead. What am I going to do? And then I believe that he went through the motions and he dressed her up in the morning. He put her in a car seat. Everyone said she slept through everything. Put her in the car seat. Put a blanket over her.
Well, it's December in Detroit.
I don't care. You don't put a blanket over the baby.
See,
a 2-year-old who's sleeping.
But I do remember, I don't have kids, but I remember when my niece and nephew were little tiny babies, you put them in the car seat and then you would drape the blanket over top.
An infant, maybe.
Especially, too, because this isn't a car where you're remote starting it and it's warm and cozy when you get in.
Then put all the blanket around her and whatever. First of all, if it's so cold and everything's going on, she's going to wake up. You're telling me she didn't wake up. There's kids, there's commotion, there's dad. You're in a new place. She's waking up. She didn't sleep through all of that. I believe she was dead.
The 15-year-old nephew, he says she was alive. He says she was alive. Not only that, a few days later, you had a Detroit police officer get a call to an unrelated incident, and she believes that she saw Bianca.
And I know you've spoken with her a lot, and I believe her.
She goes to the Detroit homicide detective, and she says, hey, I think I saw that girl on the west side at this house. And the detective is like, Dad did it. I just submitted the warrant for his arrest.
Saw her, but didn't see her. Saw her with her eyebrows shaved off, dressed as a boy.
That's later.
She saw her.
She saw her.
Who saw her dressed as a boy?
So that's the private investigator. So what happens when Detroit police don't respond? Nikki I think she actually reached out to me. And at this point, because I went to the house and there was no one there, went back a couple times, I then told the defense attorney, had you heard about this? So he has a private investigator. It's a court-appointed private investigator who is then hired through the courts to help the defense. Because this is a court-appointed case. So this PI has no skin in this game whatsoever. For him, it doesn't matter whether or not that child is indeed Bianca or not. He investigated, and he does say that he believes 100% that it was Bianca dressed as a boy, but they had shaved her eyebrows, because that was the one thing about baby Bianca. Her eyebrows were so distinctive.
I don't buy it.
I buy maybe one mistaken identity, but 2?
And I think this is what happened. I want more than literally anything in the world, more than I want my own Sephora store someday, to believe that Bianca is alive. And I think that they're projecting this onto it. It was such a huge case that you're projecting.
So when we talk about timelines, the other part that doesn't add up to me is you're telling me that within a 20-25 minute timeline, he comes up with a plan to dump the baby somewhere, come up with a carjacking story.
No. He had all night to plan it. She died the night before. He had the entire night. He probably stayed up laying in bed. What can I do? Here's what I'm going to do.
They were up. Travion, his nephew, and DeAndre were up until about 3 a.m. playing video games. And they had Bianca in the living room with them. And she was alive. And then Travion says that he saw her alive in the morning. But you go forward. Now, do I agree with you 100%? There are some things about DeAndre's carjacking story that doesn't add up for me.
Thank you.
But when you listen to the 911 tape and you see it, he's either a really good actor.
Agreed.
I think something did happen, and he's not telling the entire story.
I went through a phase when I watched his police interrogation where I fell for it. I was like, this guy's trying to find his baby, and I was hook, line, and sinker. I don't think he did it. Now, I can have a whole other debate with you about whether or not he should be convicted of this crime based on what was presented at the trial.
Right.
My answer is no. My answer is no.
Right. So he's serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole. And I didn't even think there was enough for him to be convicted on the child abuse.
I do.
But for murder?
Because what about his other little girl who testified that he abused her when she wet the bed when she was a little girl? DeAndre Lane has something about bedwetting. He loses his temper.
How much do you think his criminal history and his sexual relationships played into
You mean
this?
7 kids with 7 different women? People couldn't get over that. I have a hard time wrapping my head around that because that was a lot of drama. You have 7 different children to visit. It's with 7 different mothers. It's not easy, right?
But
There's
all
drama.
of the women, you would think so, right? So there's got to be some animosity in there somewhere. And for the most part, everyone says DeAndre is a really good dad.
But he's still sleeping with a lot of them,
He was sleeping with 2 of them.
including Bianca's mom.
Yeah.
There's a lot. There's drama. There's a lot going on. There's fireworks. I do believe that the fact that a lot of these women still support DeAndre and say he was a great father, then there's something to that. I'm going to believe them. I don't know otherwise. I just know what I heard in trial. I didn't like some of the stories I heard. And I don't like some of the stories about his dealings with Bianca. I don't buy some of it.
So one of the things I want to bring up, because this has really been a central part of this case, is the use of the cadaver dogs. Mm-hmm. Alicia, I have been covering, homicides in Detroit for way too many years.
And at the ATF, you are definitely pro-cadaver. You believe in cadaver dogs.
I believe in the dogs as a tool. What I found odd in this situation is, as part of the routine investigation, as soon as the report comes in, they start searching. And one of the things they do is they bring in the dogs to help search.
Yeah.
So the dog from the local dog gets a hit, on the car once they find the car, and it goes to an abandoned building. But yet the FBI flies in Martin Grimes from the UK with his 2 dogs.
I can't.
And they're here on the ground within 2 days from the UK.
Makes no sense. Why in the world? We have wonderful cadaver dogs, not only in our state, but in the Midwest. What are they thinking? Why are they doing that? They don't have a budget come on. It doesn't make sense to me.
The dogs are cute. I'll give you that.
Well,
they're
obviously.
spaniels. But the one thing that doesn't sit well with me, if Bianca was dead, why didn't the dogs get a hit in the living room and on DeAndre's clothes. If he's holding her, putting her coat on.
I like how you're cherry picking the things they didn't hit on.
No, so
what did they hit on?
So they get a hit on the car and on the baby seat, the bunk beds, and a closet, which nothing is really in the closet.
That may be where he beat her.
No, it's a closet with the door off. That to me just doesn't make sense. I totally believe in the use of dogs to aid in the investigation.
Right.
But I don't believe in this case there were too many differences, because it seems like you've got to hit on the other things.
I understand what you're saying.
So why is it hitting on some? And what's the discrepancy with the first police dog? If that dog is getting a scent and she's supposedly alive and it goes to an abandoned building, then...
Couldn't it have just been, aren't they cadaver dogs though? Aren't they smelling the scent of death and they trace that to the warehouse?
No, so there are different types of dogs. So, the search dogs get the scent of people.
But there was no body, there was no baby inside the warehouse, so that doesn't really lead me to anything. The question is, if she is gone, where is her body? If she is alive, where is she living? And I know you and DeAndre have been writing a lot. He's told you a lot of stuff. You can email, just so people know out there, you can send an email to a prisoner. Right.
It's actually cheaper than sending the old-fashioned letters. But when you meet DeAndre, he's soft-spoken, he's well-spoken. And do I think something happened? Yes. Do I think there's a piece of this puzzle that he's leaving out? 100%. Did he kill his daughter? I don't know. I can't answer that. And I will say it's made me not a fan, or a lot of my fellow reporters at the time when I voiced my, my thought process of, I don't know if he's guilty. A lot of my fellow reporters were like, girl, you are crazy. Right. He is guilty as a, and I was like, no, because there are still so many things that don't add up to me. And when we're talking about no body cases, they're actually not that rare where people get convicted when a body's not found. What makes this case so unique is the fact of that window. Typically, when you don't find a body, a lot of times it's a domestic violence situation, domestic abuse, and they have weeks and days. In this situation, we're talking about minutes. The incinerator was always the theory, but you've been there and I've been there, and I don't believe there's any way he would have been able to pull up, drop a bot. I mean, it's not like a movie. It's guarded. You can't do it. I don't buy that. I pray she's still alive. There's no death certificate to this day. Right. And it's still actually considered an open missing persons case by the Detroit Police Department. But yet her dad is sitting in prison for life for her murder.
Well, coming up, I will debate that part of it, because I do believe you on that. I do believe that there is not enough evidence presented in court to convict him life without parole. That's fair. But at the end of the day, do I feel like he did it? I do. I don't buy his story.
There are a couple other things. Bianca's mother, Bianca, who they call Pinky, she still 100% supports DeAndre.
Right.
And I know people will say, well, she's the mom. She wants to believe her daughter is still alive. They have this very unique bond. To me, they were kind of first loves. So I do find that a little different. It's just different.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't suspect that. But there are so many other things, like the Rico Blackwell. Okay, he's a friend. First, if I just killed my daughter and she's dead, why am I going to stop on the side of the street?
Right.
And see an old friend and be like, hey, hi, how are you? He testifies.
Alibi.
How is that an alibi? And on top of that, Rico's story changes. And one of the things he says, oh yeah, he didn't see Bianca in the car. The back seat was full of bags. But yet when they find the car, there are no bags in the back seat.
Maybe DeAndre should hire you as his defense. Listen, I want to know what everyone out there thinks. Please weigh in and help us out on this one. This is a crazy case with so many twists and turns. So weigh in on our social media, and we will be right back.